everybody, this is Kat,
And this is Rachel.
and you're listening to the Smut Peddlers podcast, a show for people who love books, especially when there's smut. We discuss our likes, our dislikes, and share all our favorite moments with you.
Thank you for checking out our trailer for our podcast. We're going to introduce ourselves and talk a little bit about how we got here. So grab your favorite beverage and get ready to burn with us. So we figured we should probably start by introducing ourselves. I am Rachel. I just turned 30. I'm a user experience and product designer for work. I'm married to a lovely man named Steven, and I have two equally lovely cats, a Bengal named Bjorn, and a brown and black calico named Nix. Other than reading, I really enjoy crocheting and playing video games and rock climbing with this lovely lady.
Hi, and I'm Kat. I'm 31. I'm an environmental protection specialist for work and part-time Twitch streamer. I share my life with my wonderful partner Jared and our 3 kitties. We have Luna, our oldest lady. She's a calico. Felix, our troublemaker. He's a tuxedo. And Rocky, our lover boy, a tabby mix, who you will occasionally see in the background of our YouTube videos. Other than reading, I enjoy rock climbing as well and playing video games with my lovely Twitch community.
So I had to look up how many years we have known each other for because I couldn't remember and I can't do math. But we've known each other for 11 years, friends since college. I graduated a year before you did. I graduated in 2017. She graduated in 2016.
A year after I did.
What did I say? A year before?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds like something I'd say. I mistake times and dates constantly, so that will never stop. We didn't keep in touch a whole lot when we finished school, but we did happen to move out to Portland, Oregon, basically within just a couple of months of each other, and saw it on Facebook, and you reached out to me and was like, hey, I don't know anybody else out there. And I was like, oh my God, same. So we have basically been inseparable ever since. And we do most of our hobbies together. We started rock climbing together, we started playing video games together, and then we started reading together. And that's kind of how this podcast started. I had started reading a lot over the past couple of years. I'm surprised that I kept up with it, to be completely honest, because I'm ADHD and I'm mildly dyslexic. So I really hated reading in school. I did not like it. I struggled a lot. And really what ended up getting me to read anything at all was I'm obsessed with Greek mythology. And I can't get enough of it. So I read like all the Percy Jackson books when I was younger, and I read the Heroes of Olympus books. But other than that, like if I had to read anything in school, I really would do the audiobook because it was just a lot easier for me to actually take in and remember that information if it was through an audiobook. So I started reading again in 2022, but it was mostly like mythology retellings, like Circe and The Witch's Heart, which are both great books. But I ended up going from there and like dipping my toe into smut through A Touch of Darkness, which is by Scarlett St. Clair, and Neon Gods, which is by Katie Roberts, which are both Hades and Persephone retellings. And I basically went, like, that's how I got introduced to smut. And then from there, like, I found all of these other books that were like smutty fantasy and smutty like contemporary romance. And of course, I like found out about ACOTAR as well, and then read that whole series in like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then just that was it. That was all of it. Like that was downhill from there. And then I tricked my friend. I tricked her into reading books with me because I couldn't stop talking about them. So yeah,
Yeah. So Rachel tricked me, but not really. I read a lot as a kid, as a teenager. I was very into young adult, like teen rom-com-y type books as it was. And so I read a lot as a kid. I read a lot throughout high school. That was one of the things that, I don't know, I did with a group of my friends. I started to get a little bit older though and kind of realized that like I was reading these books about teenagers and it felt really inappropriate. But like at that point I'd lost contact with a lot of those people that I was friends with who was reading. So like I didn't have anyone in my personal life that read as well to like say, hey, by the way, there are adult versions of this kind of thing for you to read. And then in 22, of course, Rachel started reading, and she was giving me like downloads of some of the books she was reading. And when she started getting back into like some of the contemporary romance, I was like, wait a minute, that sounds like some stuff that I would like. And we discussed it kind of at length, where I was like, I don't know if I have time, if I don't like, if I have the bandwidth for this. Like, I didn't really love the dedicated reading as a kid. So I felt like maybe I won't like this. Let me try something. So she recommended a Tessa Bailey book, Hook, Line, and Sinker, which was like the first contemporary romance book I read to kind of get back into it. And I loved it. It was fantastic, and like have not looked back since. I've read so much contemporary romance in the last year and a half. Um, that's kind of like where my heart is in a lot of things. ACOTAR was my first fantasy romance, and I devoured it, read it in a week and a half, the entire 5-book series, which...
And you were so, like, resistant to
Yeah.
it at first. Like, you got hooked on Hook, Line, and Sinker. That was a bad joke. We're moving on. But when I told you, I was like, I think you would like ACOTAR, because it's just, the story is really, really good, and it's like, okay, when you need a little break from just, you know, smut and miscommunication, let me know, and you should try ACOTAR. And you're like, I don't think I'm gonna like it. I don't think I'm gonna like the world building. I like how simple these other books are. And then you got like one book in, and you were like, all right,
Yeah,
cool.
as a kid, I was given books like Percy Jackson and Hunger Games and things like that, and I just like wasn't into it. So I genuinely thought I would hate fantasy. And there have definitely been fantasies that I've touched where I'm like, oh my god, there's so much world building, and when I'm reading, I want something now. Like, I want
You
to
struggled
finish
with
it.
Crescent City at first.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a
Yeah.
lot compared to a lot of Sarah J. Maas. I would say Crescent City, the first book, is a lot of world building. So it took me a while
It is.
to get
It's
through.
like, it's very different than her other
ACOTAR.
two
Yeah.
series in terms of how much world building gets thrown at you in that first book.
Oh yeah.
I still love it though.
But there have been many fantasy books, like Allie Hazelwood did her first fantasy book, and that was fantastic. I devoured that
Bride.
too. It was so good. I highly recommend that as well. But
Bride's stellar.
yeah, I haven't, since reading, like, we haven't really looked back. I kind of started in 2023 around like March or May. Set myself a pretty low goal of finishing 25 books and beat that goal quickly.
Yeah, that didn't take long.
Yeah.
I think you beat it like almost halfway through the year.
Yeah. Well, I also started like almost halfway through the year. So that's why I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't think I would read this fast.
That's true. You did start your goal late.
Yeah. I didn't start reading till May.
Because I started I think March of 2022, and I read 69 books. And then last year I read 100 books, which is still insane. That is, I can't, if you had told me like in high school or middle school or even in college, like you'll read 100 books in a year for fun that you chose to, I'd be like, you're on some sort of drug. Where did you get it? Because that's wild. No. I just, yeah. I still can't believe how many have you read so far this year?
I think I'm at 34.
Yeah,
My
that's
goal's
awesome.
50. I'm ahead of schedule according to Goodreads.
I'm
Um,
still behind schedule,
yeah.
and I'm scared.
I
I
don't.
set myself 100 again. I don't know if I'll hit it, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I
The
do
podcast
enjoy...
will motivate me.
Yeah, I do enjoy reading for fun, and so I wanted to have a goal that was very realistic for me. I do a lot of things, like I said earlier. I also stream on Twitch 2 days a week. I'm a Twitch partner. I have a great community on Twitch with a game that I play. So like that's a big part of my life as well. So making sure I have time to hang out with all those people there is like really important to me. So trying to set realistic goals, and what I kind of want to get out of this podcast is I want you all to be able to see what we're reading and what's coming up so that you have time to read it and then come to our reactions for the book as well. So one of the series that you'll see us cover is Throne of Glass. I have yet to read it. Rachel has read it. I've read ACOTAR and all of Crescent City, and Throne of Glass is going to be our first like series we actually cover here. And so we'll have the schedule for that way in advance for when you would get an episode from us, so you would be able to read along, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. So if you haven't read Throne of Glass and you'd like to start, those episodes are
Start
coming
now.
soon. Start now.
Get going. Yeah, we're gonna. So, Throne of Glass was the main reason that kind of I jokingly was like, oh, we should start a podcast so that when you're reading Throne of Glass, we can get your reactions and I'll, reread it. I don't know if I'm actually gonna reread it, or if I'm just gonna look back through my highlights and stuff and kind of refresh my memory. Because I obviously want to remember so that I don't spoil anything accidentally for you or anyone else. But I think that you're really going to enjoy Throne of Glass, but I'm very excited to see how much you love or dislike certain characters. Like, that was the thing where we were like, okay, maybe we should do a podcast. And then after Throne of Glass, we're just going to see kind of what happens. We've already got a couple episodes in mind to start ahead of Throne of Glass, some contemporary books that we've read recently that we're going to talk about. And then, yeah, we'll just kind of go from there. And I'm excited because I'll get to read some other stuff while you're reading Throne of Glass. And then, I can talk about that stuff too, which is exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. I want you all to know that we're not going to just be a fantasy romance podcast. We're going to be everything. So if there's contemporary romance that you guys want to see covered, once we're done with Throne of Glass, something coming out that you want someone to just gush over a book with, like, we can be those people. We read a lot of things. So
we read a lot of things.
Yeah. We want to thank you so much for checking out our podcast and getting to know us. We hope you enjoy your time here. You can find us at the Smut Peddlers on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Patreon for additional content. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.